partly why I want to try to integrate my thoughts on politics into the shared story, because I do see, and again, this might take a while, this would take maybe a serious, it's one of these things that I'd love to make a video about this, but I haven't really nailed it down yet, the best way to do that. But I do see the chart as telling this story of this tension between the individual and the collective. And it's so obvious in our lives, you know, we have a tension between what our desires are and our families and the collective desires of our communities. And often, you know, we make a choice to sacrifice some of our individuality for some of that community, you know. So a lot of my disagreeableness, I've kind of modulated it because I want to get along with people. And a lot of times that's just for the sake of the kids and their experiences at school and stuff. We're sending our kids to a Christian school, so it's in a lot of ways it is kind of alien to my wife and I. We didn't grow up Christian. This is all new to us in a lot of ways. Because while I consider myself a Christian, most of these people would not consider me a Christian, I think. Some of them might, but you know how it is with people. Like, you know, people are judgmental. I'm not immune from that either, you know. None of us are, I don't think. We try. But I think a lot of Christians would look at this work and think, bro, you're messing with things that you don't understand. And maybe they're right, I don't know. I don't want this to become a situation where we're kind of rejected from our community. When I say our community, I mean, like, you know, when you have kids, sometimes you end up being friends with people just because you have kids, you know, that your kids know each other. You don't necessarily choose these people. It's kind of like having work friends, you know, sometimes you're just friends with people because of proximity. But I guess I'm just trying to talk about this tension, you know, that we all see in our lives between our individuality and the collective, you know, our culture, our society. It's a hard thing to navigate sometimes, and I think the culture war is sort of perfectly oriented to push people into these camps, you know, something that might be a natural phenomenon, but that is encouraged around the periphery by little pokes and little, you know, it's like when you're going down a river, you can change your course very easily just by putting one. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at with a lot of this stuff. It's like there might not be some grand conspiracy to control people, but people are definitely influencing the course of the boat in the river, you know. Let's change the subject, man. Let's get out of this political nightmare. I've been rereading Dune a little bit lately. If you've got any Dune fans out there, I want to do a video about Dune. You know, Formscapes, that's something that's on my list of things to watch. He did a video about sort of Star Wars and Dune and how culturally, you know, Star Wars has sort of run its course as like a communal mythology that we all grew up with. And I guess, you know, nowadays, like I meet a lot of younger people who are like, I've never seen Star Wars. And the Dune, you know, really is the more sort of adult version of Star Wars. And I think a lot of people know the story, you know, that Frank Herbert was a little annoyed about Star Wars. You know, you've got the desert planet. You've got the cult of force-wielding witches, you know. You've got the crazy authoritarian emperor. But Dune's message is very different. Somebody pointed out to me too recently that the hero in Dune is kind of performing this antichrist, you know, sort of function. He's sort of, you know, instituting a tyranny that is sort of it's anti-liberty. It's like it's the ultimate in authoritarianism. The hero in Dune, again, when I say hero, don't misunderstand what I'm trying to say here. I guess it's, yeah, the hero in Dune is an antichrist. And saw a lot of people sort of pointing that out when the Dune movie was coming out. I was like, this is a white savior story. It's like, actually, no. No. Paul is not the hero. He's the protagonist in a lot of ways, but until you've read at least the first 4 books, I don't think you can really say for sure, what Frank Herbert was on about. But I think he was really onto something. He got this ancient aristocracy who through the use of this drug can see the future. And I do think that Frank Herbert kind of knew, he knew something about the truth about our world, So I do think that it does seem as though people are messing with, other forces to divine the future and then manipulate